Hello, this is Artemis_anime, and today I am reading Bold Smiles and Confused Classmates by sleepyoongs. Summary. Class 1A are oblivious. Izuku knew this. But for them to be oblivious to the point of naivety? Well, Izuku couldn't help but to mess with them. Or 5+1 about Izuku being Midnight and Obero's child. 1. Related to cloud or cloudy people. Shikamaru Izuku was, and still is, an interesting character, most would say. He stood out well in a crowd just by looks alone. Izuku had peachy tan skin that had a singular beauty mark that rested under his right eye. His hair was also pale blue, and a gradient into a dark blue until the tips of his hair blended into jet black. His hair was fluffy, and was always seen casually flowing around him, as if it was blowing in the wind. And Izuku? He heard from anyone who was bold enough to ask to touch his hair, or even on a rare occasion lay in it, describe it as soft, cotton candy cloud. Izuku, he also had people who were even more bold to try and eat his hair, since apparently it looked edible. His big, bright, eccentric blue eyes were another thing that attracted people to him like moths to flame. Others told him that if they had dared to attempt to stare long enough in them, they would fall under a hypnotic spell. Though, even with his physical looks, it was his quirk that always put the stamp on people's interests. Izuku's quirk was a strange mix of his parents, which one was being simply a cloud, and the other being sunlit burst. Izuku, just like his father, can create clouds. He can hold things on the clouds, and he can make it dense enough for him, alongside other people, to ride them in the air. But, unlike his father, his clouds are able to hold the sleeping gas that his mother is able to produce from her body. If Izuku wanted to, he is able to make a cloud that holds the gas in the core, and allow it to explode in a certain area. Those clouds, Izuku is able to change the size and shapes of. In short, Izuku basically can create gas bombs whenever he likes. You know, Kumo, your quirk is kind of like our sensei, Midnight, Kaminari pointed out as he subconsciously played in Izuku's hair with nothing but contentment and pure bliss that had blazed and burned in the golden eyes of Kaminari while he ran his fingertips through the base of Izuku's hair. Even months after knowing Izuku, and even now, the classes living in the dorm together, Kaminari is still in shock of how fluffy and soft his hair is. Izuku partly wonders how the other teen would react to meeting his father. After all, the man's hair is even more soft than his. His father's hair is airy, fluffy, and truly feels like a cloud. Actually, his quirk is more like Loud Cloud. I mean, Shioburo even looks like the dude, Kirishima chimed in, and Izuku just absent-mindedly hummed to what his classmates were saying, and now going on to debate. Maybe they're related? Or is that how all cloud people— Ow! Jiro smacked Kaminari before he could even get a chance to complete that sentence. Wait! Let the man speak! He's just saying something smart! Are they related, or are they just cloudy? Ashido silently pondered, as the class now dissolved into near-distressed levels of mutters. Shikamaru Obero, or known by others as Loud Cloud, was his father, along with Midnight, or known to some as Kayama. Shikamaru Nemori was his mother. Though he wasn't sure if his class was aware of the fact, he didn't exactly tell them, but he didn't try to hide it, either. Izuku thought it was more than obvious, seeing as he looked like a carbon copy of his father, had a quirk nearly the same as his father, and he was basically his father with a sprinkle of his mother's personality and physical traits. Maybe his class was really that dumb, or naively oblivious. Maybe Izuku should talk to Uncle Shota about improving their awareness. Shiro-kun, are you related to either Loud Cloud or Midnight? Uraraka asked, and almost eerily the class fell silent, and, all at once, snapped their necks up to look at him. Izuku just gave a lazy smirk as he stood up, preparing to leave. He could give the class a yes and be done with it, but clearly they were all so desperate to know, and he liked teasing others, and to watch them suffer. Sue him for being a little bit sadistic like his mother. So instead of giving a proper answer, Izuku had walked off, but of course he couldn't leave without a few words. "Figure it out yourselves, babes." The class screamed in confusion and mild irritation towards those words. It was absolutely beautiful to Izuku's ears. 2. Shikamaru versus death. "I don't think we should wake up Sensei. The man looked half dead, just walking into the class, and now actually asleep. He looks dead," Shinzo said, as he warily stared down at the possibly not breathing man. As he took a long drink from his coffee that Ida gave up scolding him for having in class. "And if Aizawa isn't dead, then you'll be for waking him up," Hakakure said with a shiver of her floating clothes while everyone agreed with her. Azuku couldn't help but roll his eyes at the class, who had an unreasonable fear of Aizawa. He stared down at the man, who they all currently wanted to ask if they could have a slumber party in the dorms and wanted to invite him to. The entire class knew it was a long shot, especially if they were going to ask him straight out of his sleep. Aizawa craved sleep more than anything else in his life. Yet, they didn't have any other chances, seeing as classes are over. The man does his disappearing act better than Honduri himself. It was impressive, but also a little bit annoying when you wanted to talk to him. "All right, I'll ask him," Izuku said as he stood up, pushing the chair of his back and stuffing his hands in his pocket. He heard enough of the fight. That was, in his opinion, boring. They were all too afraid to do so Izuku will do it. His uncle can't do anything to him that his mother hasn't. That woman is his biggest fear as much as he idolizes her. "Wait, what? Shikamaru, Izuku, what in heaven's name are you doing?" Izuku heard the hiss of Ida, but he ignored it, as he started casually, with a bit of a swaying and pep in his step, over to the yellow abomination of a sleeping bag. Izuku peered down at the man before he jabbed Aizawa with a light enough kick that it shouldn't hurt too much, but enough to wake him up in an instant. He could hear the class gasp in some dramatic way, and even some start to whisper, though he couldn't focus on that for too long. Not when an angry Aizawa shot up, straight with a curse. "If you have 1 second to speak," Izuku grinned brightly, as if he wasn't in the face of death itself. "Class wants to have a sleepover later tonight, and they want you there. You are coming." Despite the radiating and smooth velvety tone of his, there was a tautness that left no room for Aizawa to say no. Izuku gave him no choice, even if it seemed like he did. The older man could only stare back at him, incredulous, before he huffed and laid back over. "Fine, whatever, I'll go. Just leave me alone." Izuku smiled, even bigger, as he turned his heel and walked back towards his desk, ignoring his classmate's heavy stare. "What the fuck? How is it fair that Kumo can face death and doesn't die?" Kaminari broke the silence after that. 3. He's kind of a flirt. Izuku knew, for every bit of him that was just like his father, he was also just like his mother. And at times, he forgets until he finds himself acting just like her. And during those times, he can only laugh and shake his head in the most exasperatedly fond way. It is one of those he forgets he's just like his mother until reality decides to remind him. Apparently, out of all the traits he could have took on from his mother, he shares her flirty nature, along with being a little high, strong, and perhaps sadistic in finding pleasure in others' suffering and pain. And, maybe he does share a lot more with his mother than just her poor eyesight and the beauty mark on his right cheek. "Shira-kun, you're a bit tense. Did you even notice that?" Uraka asked him during lunch period. This lunch, Class 1A was sitting together, rather than being separated by their respective friendship squads. It was a recent thing the class had started, and did twice a month, just enough for them to be closer with each other. And once those words had left Uraka's mouth, 19 pairs of eyes trailed over to Izuku, staring curiously. Most started chatting, and a lot quieted down to near whisper level to hear what he had to say. His class was very nosy. Izuku, he had naturally tilted his head to the side, with a smirk that showed off his canine teeth. Uraka was already forming a blush, with her eyes spelling out regret for even asking the question. Not too far down from her, Ashido gave a little whistle, with her phone out already recording what was going down. Oh, really? I didn't notice. I really didn't. But for you to notice, you must like it. Izuku purred lowly and softly, with his tone coy and coquettish. If even possible, Uraka's face and ears erupted in a burning shade of red as she loudly squeaked, falling backwards towards the floor. Though, before she could even hit the ground, her quirk was quick to activate, sending her off into the air. And she's gone, y'all. She's up there with the gods now. Kumo has killed another one, Ashido narrated with a laugh and a slap onto the table. Izuku could only blink, watching the poor gravity quirk user float further and further away from their table. 4. When the clock strikes midnight. Izuku stared at the board that was full of loud cloud and pictures of him. They were thin red strings, and they were connecting to a certain picture, and each of the pictures connected to the one that fell in the middle. It was a faceless photo of a woman who the class were trying to add into it as his mother or near relative. Azuku, he found it pretty sad as much as he found it humorous. He was proud they found out Loud Cloud was related to him directly, even if the class fell into a deep debate onto how exactly the Cloud Hero was related to him. Why can't his mother be Midnight Sensei? I mean, her quirk is literally summonables, Kaminari said, but got brushed off as overlapping arguments that there were no way that it could be Midnight. She and Loud Cloud would have to know each other. I doubt the two of them are no more than co-workers on the field. Yairozu rejected the idea with a surprising amount of passion in her voice. Also, Midnight Sensei being pregnant would be in the news headlines till this day. I highly doubt it's her. Geru, Ashido added on, and Kaminari pouted further to this, but didn't give up on his point. He just muttered under his breath in a sulk. Hating a pregnancy isn't that hard with all the new technology, but okay. Izuku felt for Kaminari. No one even gave his idea or point a single thought before they all moved on to the next ridiculous claim. At least the electricity user was right. From the point of Midnight being his mother, to the point about her easily being able to hide her pregnancy. Azuku, he couldn't help but scoot closer to the other teen, brushing his fingertips on his shoulder, while giving a gentle and approving smile. Kaminari, for a moment, didn't fully understand the gesture, but after a few seconds of him staring, his eyes lit up, and he nearly spoke up before Izuku placed a finger over Kaminari's lips in a shushing movement. He gave a teasing wink and a small grin-like smirk to the other teen who couldn't do anything but become flustered. While Kaminari was red-faced and doing his best tomato impression, his golden eyes shimmered with awe and curiosity, just waiting to burst through and ask questions. Izuku could only silently laugh to this, as he mentally promised to talk to the other teen later. 5. Spirit Day. UA, for once, allowed the students free of their uniforms. Izuku, he was happy. The uniform in Izuku says this in the most offensive way possible, is ugly. And if it wasn't for the past that he could potentially get in trouble for breaking the dress code, he wouldn't wear it at all. Especially not the horrid, bulky jacket. Izuku, he couldn't say he was the best fashion choice. He thought he dressed normally. In fact, Izuku, he had a lot to say of his mother's clothing style, other than what people would say. But Izuku, he was rather dressed like his mother than his dad. That man has no sense in clothing. So perhaps when walking into class that morning, it could be multiple reasons why people stared at him with jaws nearly touching the floor and their faces burning brighter than Kirishima's fake hair job. Izuku took out his headphones and slipped his phone within his jacket pocket. Izuku knew he was attractive, and that wasn't him being vain. He just knew his worth, and the fact that he wasn't the worst-looking people out there. He knew he could walk into a crowd and make heads spin, but seeing his class right now, this was different. It was as if time had stopped and he was the only one who could move. Izuku gave a humorous humph, as a flirtatious smile took home upon his lips. If you want to stare, take a picture. It'll last longer. I can pose for you if you like. Izuku chuckled lowly, to his own stupid joke while strutting over to his seat and sat down, with his legs kicked up onto the desk, and that only sent the class into a frenzy rather than fully snap them out of their trance. "What the fuck? What the fuck?" Uraraka could be heard whispering as she kept staring at him, as if she couldn't see him correctly. "Sir, I need to know who your parents are, because there is no way you got the best beauty genes and it skipped out on all of us." Zero actually sounded like he was in pain. He sounded near tears. Actually, Izuku saw the tears falling from the tape quirk user's eyes as he stared at him with a mixture of awestruck to a weird, crooked expression that Izuku did not know the name of. This is illegal. I'm suing," Ashido said in a murmur, while she pulled her phone out to start, not so subtly, to take pictures. "Share those with me," Kirishima said, peering over Ashido's shoulder while she stared at the newly taken photos. "Actually, Shikamaru-san, can you pose, preferably on top of the desk?" Todoroki dryly and boldly asked with his phone in hand, ready to take some photos. Izuku nearly choked on a laugh as he stared wildly at Todoroki, who was more than serious. He wasn't even sure what he did that resulted in his class falling into chaos like this, but it was amazing to see. "Sure, okay." +1. Parents' Day. Today was the day in Mufasu, and in a UA, all parents of Class 1A was in the dorms, all ranging from normal parents, such as the Urarakas, who were just a hard-working family, from the Bakugos, who were high-middle-class family, who worked on fashion designs and were fairly well off, and to the others, such as the Todorokis, who were a hero family, and others like Ida and Yaoyorozu, who were also in the hero family spectrum. Everyone in the class had at least one family member there, and even if it was technically Parents' Day, well, all besides Izuku. His mother, well, she was in the school, and she was going to be coming a bit late. Izuku couldn't help but to feel a bit lonely, and even though Izuku also knew his father was on the way, that he was held up by a villain, which was why he was late, he was still a little upset. It felt strangely bitter to see others with their family, and his was late. He knew sooner or later that it'll be fine. So instead, Izuku just tried to keep a smile on his face. "Kumo, where's your parents at? Didn't you say they'd be here?" Kaminari left his mom's side momentarily to be at Izuku's. It was such a sweet. Even though he wanted his best friend to spend as much time with his parents before the event ended. Though Kaminari didn't seem like he cared. He only flashed a smile that was comforting. "Mom is coming soon. She got held up in a meeting, and Dad's coming late because of a villain attack." Kaminari nodded his head, but didn't say anything else. It was fine, though. Izuku just liked the fact that he was by his side. He wasn't too lonely, and it was oddly peaceful. Well, peaceful until it wasn't. Izuku saw the doors open and come in was both his mom and dad, which instantly drew the attention onto them. His class, for the longest time now, have been wondering what Loud Cloud is to him. Most had settled for older brother, seeing that he was young, and would have been even younger when Izuku would have been born. Though, now that the Cloud Hero was here, and was searching throughout the wave of teenagers who on occasion would talk excitedly to him, Izuku couldn't help but to grin at the stunned faces of his classmates. A lot of them would whip their heads over to stare at him and Kaminari before staring back at his parents. Izuku even heard his fellow classmates, Bakugo, clear across the dorm saying, "No fucking way," before promptly being smacked on the back of his head by his mother. Oh, Izuku was taking too much joy on this. He couldn't wait for school on Monday. "Wait a goddamn second," Izuku could hear Kaminari mutter under his breath, just as Midnight and Loud Cloud approached him. "My little cotton ball!" Oboro gave a coo with a wide grin, as he was quick to pull Izuku into a hug despite his whines. "I was right about Loud Cloud too?" The electricity quirk user had nearly fried his brain at this revelation. While he stared at the father-son duo, Nemuri glanced over at him and gave a small head tilt to show her curiosity was piqued. "Right about what?" she asked, with a smile that was scarcely similar to Izuku's. Kaminari gave a shudder, but he soon grinned widely, remembering the heroine's question. "I just know some people owe me some money. Kaminari cackled. And Izuku, when he finally pulled away from his father, stared at the other team with so much pride that it nearly hurt. Hey, lovely. Isn't that how we looked at each other before getting together? His dad had the nerve to tease him, and his mom, the traitor, grinned at him and gave a nod of her head. You're right, darling. Despite seeing Kaminari brush so many times, Azuku doesn't think he's ever seen the tongue slowly dissolve into the ground while muttering incoherent words. Apparently, you see new things every day. Author's note. This, by accident, turned into Kamideku. Like, I had no intentions for ships besides a little teasing. Kamideku is one of my favorite comfort ships, so don't at me. It just happened, and I'm not even mad about it. Anyways, though, if you enjoyed, I'm glad you did, because I barely have any knowledge of my hero vigilantes, so, this is going off things I've read in FFs and the wiki. So Lord help my soul if I got anything wrong. If you have a parent request you want me to do, I will. I'm not above trying new things. Like, if you want someone in Class 1A to be Izuku's siblings and everyone else to just be clueless, just tell me who. Or if you want a specific parent pairing to happen to make Izuku, I'll also do it. Series this works belongs to Deku's Weird Parentage Zine, Deku Dad Mom Zine, My Hero One Shot Zone, and Izuku-centric stories. Reader's note. Sorry that I couldn't make Izuku's tone quite right. I'm not good at flirtatious tones. But this was Bold Smiles and Confused Classmates by sleepyoongs. Please go check them out. I love their works so much. And thank you for listening. See you next week, hopefully. Bye!